The rain was coming down in sheets, blurring the towering glass of the Creswell Tech building. It was one of those Seattle days where the sky seemed to be weeping along with the frustrated sighs echoing from inside. High up in the building, in the main boardroom, you could practically cut the tension with a knife. The air was thick, heavy, mirroring the storm raging outside. A long, polished table dominated the room, surrounded by plush leather chairs, each occupied by a sharply dressed executive. Their faces were grim, etched with worry lines that seemed to deepen with every passing hour. At the head of the table sat Richard Creswell himself, the CEO, his usually confident demeanor replaced by a palpable anxiety. He ran a hand through his thinning hair, the silence in the room pressing down on him like a physical weight. The source of this collective despair stood at the far end of the room. 30 of Creswell Tech's top engineers, a collection of brilliant minds now united in defeat. They looked exhausted, their shoulders slumped, their eyes reflecting the flickering light of the projection screen behind them. The problem they faced was deceptively simple to explain, yet maddeningly impossible to solve. For 6 long months, Creswell Tech had poured all its resources into developing a revolutionary AI-driven delivery logistics system. This wasn't just some minor upgrade. They envisioned a complete overhaul of how goods were shipped globally, promising to optimize routes/costs and redefine the entire industry. The potential rewards were astronomical, but so were the stakes. Every single model they'd built, every algorithm they'd painstakingly crafted, had crashed and burned. The investors, initially patient, were starting to get cold feet, their phone calls becoming more frequent and their tone more demanding. Deadlines, once distant, were now looming like storm clouds on the horizon, threatening to drown the entire project. Richard Creswell felt the pressure mounting, each failed attempt chipping away at his reputation and the future of his company. The weight of expectations was immense, and the silence in the boardroom was a testament to the crushing disappointment that filled the room. Meanwhile, 3 floors below the tense boardroom drama, 21-year-old Maya Lewis was battling her own storm. Rain plastered her thin hoodie to her back as she shivered in the lobby of Creswell Tech, clutching a bag of fragrant takeout. This was her 3rd delivery of the afternoon, a quick dash between her daytime job at a struggling bookstore and her evening classes at the community college. Maya wasn't like the people upstairs. She wasn't an engineer, didn't wear a power suit, and her academic journey was a slow, uphill climb, funded by these hurried deliveries and sheer determination. She hadn't yet earned a spot at a prestigious university, her dreams of higher education still flickering on the horizon. But Maya possessed something far more valuable than any degree or title, an insatiable curiosity, a mind that saw patterns where others saw chaos, and an unwavering belief in her own ability to solve problems. It was this innate drive that would soon lead her down an unexpected path, one that would change her life and the fate of Creswell Tech forever. The aroma of sesame chicken and noodles filled the air, a stark contrast to the sterile environment of the lobby, a small island of warmth in the midst of the corporate chill. As Maya waited for someone to claim the order, her eyes drifted towards a partially open doorway leading to a side hallway. Through the gap, she could glimpse a large projection screen, its surface alive with a chaotic dance of diagrams, lines of code that looked like abstract art to her untrained eye. And, most intriguingly, a series of real-time traffic simulations. Cars flowed across a digital map of the city, their movements represented by colored dots, constantly shifting and changing. Maya had always been drawn to puzzles, her mind a natural problem solver since childhood. She'd spend hours tackling logic problems, crosswords, anything that challenged her intellect. There was something about the dynamic complexity of the simulation, the interplay of countless variables that sparked her interest. It was like a living puzzle, constantly evolving, demanding to be understood. She found herself drawn in, her attention captured by the intricate dance of data unfolding before her eyes. The longer she watched, the more a nagging feeling grew within her, a sense that something wasn't quite right, a subtle disharmony in the symphony of information. 20 minutes ticked by, the aroma of the food growing stronger, yet no one came down to collect it. Maya shifted from foot to foot, her patience wearing thin. She knew she was on a tight schedule. Her night class wouldn't wait. Finally, deciding she couldn't linger any longer, she approached the receptionist's desk, a small island of order in the bustling lobby. The receptionist, a woman with tired eyes and a weary smile, was busy answering a phone call, her voice a low murmur. Maya waited politely, the bag of takeout growing heavy in her hands. When the call ended, Maya stepped forward and explained her situation, asking if she could simply leave the food there. "I have another delivery and then class," she explained, her voice slightly apologetic. "I don't want it to get cold." The receptionist nodded, pointing to a side table. "Just leave it there, honey. Someone will grab it eventually." Maya placed the bag down, a flicker of frustration crossing her face. She hated leaving things unfinished, but time was of the essence. Just as she turned to leave, the elevator doors slid open with a soft ding, and a young man stumbled out. He looked disheveled, his tie loosened, his hair a mess, and his eyes bloodshot. He clutched a handful of crumpled papers, his face etched with exhaustion and hunger. It was one of the, junior developers from upstairs, clearly running on fumes. Maya recognized him from the glimpse she'd caught of the boardroom earlier. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. As he shuffled towards the lobby exit, Maya, on impulse, handed him the takeout bag. "Here," she said, her voice gentle. "You look like you need this more than whoever ordered it." He blinked at her, surprised by the unexpected gesture. He took the bag with a grateful sigh, his shoulders relaxing slightly. Then, before she could think better of it, Maya's curiosity got the better of her. "Is that simulation you guys are running about variable node predictions?" she asked, the question tumbling out before she could stop herself. The developer blinked, his tired eyes widening slightly in surprise. He clearly wasn't expecting a delivery girl to be asking about complex algorithms. He hesitated for a moment, then, driven by a mixture of exhaustion and a desperate need to talk to someone, anyone, about the problem that had been consuming his life, he replied, "Yeah, why do you ask?" Maya took a deep breath, her mind racing, trying to organize her thoughts into coherent sentences. "Well," she began, her voice gaining confidence as she spoke, "your route models seem to be prioritizing intersections with higher traffic volume, which makes sense, but they don't appear to be adequately factoring in real-time environmental data. Things like sudden weather changes or unexpected construction delays. That's probably why your delivery matrix keeps collapsing." The words tumbled out of her, a torrent of observation and analysis honed by hours of solving intricate puzzles. She gestured with her hands, trying to convey the complex interplay of factors she saw in her mind's eye. The developer stared at her, his mouth slightly agape, utterly stunned. A wave of panic washed over Maya. She immediately regretted speaking up. Who was she? A delivery girl with no formal training, to criticize the work of these highly educated engineers? She wasn't trying to be rude or arrogant, just curious. The words had simply spilled out, driven by her insatiable need to understand and solve. "Sorry," she mumbled, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. I saw the projection while I was waiting. It was interesting, that's all." She avoided eye contact, wishing the floor would just swallow her up. The developer didn't reply immediately. He just stood there holding the bag of food, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable. Finally, he gave a curt nod, turned and walked back towards the elevator, leaving Maya standing alone in the lobby, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt a mix of shame and a strange, unsettling excitement. Had she actually said something useful, or had she just made a fool of herself? The uncertainty gnawed at her as she hurried out into the rain, eager to escape the awkward encounter. Upstairs, in the tense atmosphere of the boardroom, the junior developer burst through the double doors, interrupting Richard Creswell just as he was about to announce the suspension of the entire project. The room, previously filled with a heavy silence, now buzzed with the low murmur of resigned conversation. Engineers were packing up their laptops, their faces etched with disappointment and frustration. The air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and defeat. Creswell, his voice weary, was preparing to deliver the news that no one wanted to hear, the news that would likely send shockwaves through the company and its investors. "There's this girl downstairs," the developer blurted out, his voice breathless and slightly frantic. All eyes in the room turned towards him, surprise momentarily replacing the gloom. He paused, trying to catch his breath, his chest heaving. She looked at our model, the simulation, and she pointed out a critical flaw, a flaw we've all missed. His words hung in the air, met with a stunned silence. The room remained quiet for a long moment, the only sound the distant hum of the city outside. Then, a ripple of disbelief spread through the room, erupting into a wave of nervous laughter. The idea that a random person, a delivery girl no less, could find a mistake that 30 of the brightest minds in the industry had overlooked seemed absurd. Some engineers exchanged amused glances, shaking their heads in disbelief. Others chuckled softly, dismissing the developer's claim as a desperate attempt to grasp at straws. However, one engineer, a woman known for her meticulous attention to detail, decided to investigate. She pulled up the variable node priorities on the main screen, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She scrutinized the data, her brow furrowed in concentration, and then her eyes widened. A gasp escaped her lips. The laughter in the room died down abruptly, replaced by an uneasy silence. She pointed to a specific line of code, her voice trembling slightly. "He's right," she whispered. "She's right. The environmental data, it's not being weighted correctly." The laughter died down completely, replaced by a stunned silence. The engineers exchanged bewildered glances, the initial amusement fading into a growing sense of disbelief, and, dare they admit it, a hint of shame. How could they, the best and brightest in their field, have missed something so fundamental? The realization that a complete outsider had identified their critical error was a bitter pill to swallow. Richard Creswell, who had been about to deliver the crushing blow of failure, stood frozen, his mouth slightly agape. A flicker of something akin to hope sparked in his eyes, quickly followed by a surge of cautious curiosity. "Bring her up here," he said, his voice firm, cutting through the lingering tension. "I want to talk to this Maya." The junior developer, still slightly dazed, nodded and hurried out of the boardroom, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. A wave of anticipation, mixed with apprehension, swept through the room. Who was this girl? What else did she know? The atmosphere had shifted dramatically, from despair to a fragile, uncertain hope. Within the hour, Maya found herself standing outside the imposing double doors of the Creswell Tech boardroom. She was soaked to the bone, her hair plastered to her face, her hands trembling slightly. In one hand she clutched her phone, its screen cracked and faded, a stark contrast to the sleek devices carried by the people inside. In the other she held a worn notebook, its pages filled with messy sketches, scribbled calculations, and the overflow of her restless mind. She felt like a lamb being led into a lion's den. The sheer weight of the situation pressed down on her, the importance of the project, the desperation of the company, and the intimidating presence of the people waiting for her on the other side of those doors. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart, and pushed. The doors opened. The scene that greeted her was even more overwhelming than she had imagined. 30 pairs of eyes turned to stare at her, a sea of suits and ties focused on the girl in sneakers and a rain-soaked jacket. The room was vast and imposing, filled with the hushed murmur of expensive technology and the lingering scent of anxiety. Maya felt incredibly small, a tiny speck of color in a monochrome world. The polished table seemed to stretch on forever, a barrier between her and the powerful figures seated around it. She could feel her heart pounding in her ears, the blood rushing to her face. It was a moment of intense vulnerability, a collision of two vastly different worlds. Richard Creswell, his expression a mixture of curiosity and skepticism, raised an eyebrow. "Miss," he began, his voice deep and resonant, filling the room. He paused, waiting for her name. Maya swallowed hard, trying to find her voice. This was it, the moment of truth. "Maya," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maya Lewis, I'm a delivery girl." She gestured awkwardly at her damp clothes, feeling acutely aware of how out of place she was. "The junior developer said you think we're missing something in our algorithm?" Creswell leaned forward, his gaze intense. Yes, he said you identified a flaw in our variable node predictions. Can you elaborate on that? Maya took a deep breath, trying to recall the clarity she felt when she was observing the simulation. The fear began to recede, replaced by the familiar pull of the puzzle. Yes, sir, she said, her voice gaining a bit more strength. You seem to be missing a dynamic input filter. If you apply a layered learning system based on environmental heuristics, you can significantly cut your current error rate. I estimate by about 43%. The engineers in the room shifted in their seats, a murmur of surprise rippling through the air. The term layered learning system hung in the air, a complex concept, coming from the mouth of someone who had just moments before identified herself as a delivery driver. Maya hesitated for a moment, then took a step forward, her nervousness fading as she became engrossed in the problem. If you'd like, she offered, her voice gaining strength, I can try to show you what I mean. She opened her notebook, its pages filled with a chaotic mix of sketches, diagrams, and equations. It was a visual representation of her thought process, a tangible manifestation of her restless mind. The engineers leaned forward, their initial skepticism slowly giving way to a flicker of curiosity. They watched as Maya began to outline her idea, her finger tracing lines across the page, her voice explaining the complex relationships between data points and algorithms. At first, her explanations were hesitant, punctuated by stumbles and pauses. She wasn't used to presenting her ideas to such a formal audience. The weight of their scrutiny was palpable, the pressure immense. But as she delved deeper into her explanation, her confidence began to grow. The puzzle had taken hold, and her mind was in its element. She spoke with increasing fluency, her passion for the subject shining through. The engineers, initially skeptical, found themselves drawn into her logic, captivated by her unique perspective. She saw connections they had missed, patterns hidden beneath the surface of the data. The boardroom, once filled with tension and despair, now held a hushed silence, broken only by Maya's voice and the scratching of her pen on the whiteboard. Time seemed to stand still as she meticulously laid out her solution, her every word holding the potential to salvage months of work and the future of the company. The fate of Creswell Tech hung in the balance, resting on the shoulders of a young woman who had walked in just hours before, carrying a bag of takeout and a mind brimming with untapped potential. As Maya reached the culmination of her explanation, a hush fell over the room. The engineers watched, their faces a mixture of concentration and anticipation. On the large projection screen behind her, the traffic simulation was running, the digital cars flowing across the map. This time, however, something was different. The chaotic flow had smoothed out, the bottlenecks had disappeared, and the system seemed to be adapting in real time to the changing conditions on the road. For the first time in 6 long months, the simulation didn't crash. It didn't stutter, didn't freeze, it simply worked. A collective gasp filled the room, a sound of disbelief and awe. The silence that followed was profound, heavy with the weight of the impossible becoming reality. 30 of the brightest minds in their field, the experts, the professionals, had been outsmarted by a delivery girl. The implications of that realization hung in the air, a testament to the power of fresh perspectives and the limitations of preconceived notions. Maya stepped back from the whiteboard, her heart still pounding, her breath catching in her throat. She had poured out her thoughts, laid bare her understanding, and now all she could do was wait. The room remained completely silent, no one daring to interrupt the profound shift that had just occurred. The engineers, their faces etched with a mixture of shock, respect, and a touch of embarrassment, stared at Maya as if she had just performed a miracle. These were individuals with degrees from the most prestigious universities in the world, MIT, Stanford, Oxford, their resumes filled with accolades and accomplishments. Yet, here stood Maya, soaked and unassuming, having achieved what they deemed impossible. The contrast was stark, the irony undeniable. The usual hierarchy of expertise had been shattered, revealing a truth that often goes unacknowledged. Brilliance can emerge from anywhere, regardless of background or credentials. Richard Creswell, the usually unflappable CEO, a man known for his sharp, mind and unwavering composure, stood slowly. He looked at Maya, his gaze intense, searching. The silence in the room seemed to amplify every small sound, the ticking of a clock, the distant hum of the city, the soft rustle of Maya's notebook pages. He took a deep breath, as if gathering his thoughts, then spoke, his voice measured and deliberate. "You're saying," he began, his tone laced with a hint of disbelief, "that if we reroute the decision tree of our algorithm through a real-time layered learning system, the system can self-optimize on the fly?" He paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in, his eyes fixed on Maya, waiting for confirmation. The future of his company, the culmination of months of effort, hinged on her answer. Maya nodded, her fingers trembling slightly as she clasped her hands together. The enormity of the situation was starting to hit her. She, a delivery girl with no formal training, was standing in front of the CEO and 30 top engineers of a major tech company, proposing a solution that could save their groundbreaking project. It was surreal, almost dreamlike. "Yes," she replied, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. "And not just with traffic patterns. It can also adapt to weather conditions, street closures, unexpected construction, even data from live events happening in the city." She paused, her eyes widening slightly as she realized the full potential of her idea. It's like giving your algorithm eyes. Instead of blindfolds, the analogy hung in the air, simple yet powerful, capturing the essence of her solution. It was about seeing the world in all its complexity, not just relying on static data, but embracing the dynamic flow of information that shaped reality. While Creswell pondered Maya's words, one of the engineers, a young woman with tired eyes and a perpetually furrowed brow, was already frantically typing on her keyboard. She was running Maya's proposed model in the background, her fingers flying across the keys with practiced ease. The tension in the room was palpable, every eye fixed on the screen, waiting for the verdict. The seconds stretched into an eternity, each tick of the clock echoing in the silence. Finally, the simulation on the screen stabilized. It didn't crash. In fact, it did something no one had dared to hope for. It improved. With every new piece of data fed into the system, the algorithm became more accurate, more efficient, more intelligent. A wave of astonishment washed over the room. The impossible had happened right before their very eyes. Maya's solution wasn't just a patch. It was a fundamental shift, a paradigm change that had unlocked the true potential of their AI. Creswell stepped forward, his face now illuminated with a mixture of relief and profound curiosity. The weight of the world seemed to lift from his shoulders as the reality of Maya's breakthrough sank in. He looked at her, his gaze intense, searching for answers. "Maya," he began, his voice softer now, laced with genuine interest. "Where did you study? What's your background in this?" He gestured vaguely towards the screen, encompassing the complex algorithms and intricate data visualizations that had baffled his entire team for months. The question hung in the air, a simple inquiry that held the key to understanding how someone so young, so seemingly inexperienced, could achieve what 30 seasoned professionals could not. The engineers, their initial skepticism replaced by a growing respect, leaned in, eager to hear her response. The room held its breath, waiting for Maya to reveal the secret behind her unexpected brilliance. Maya hesitated, a blush creeping up her neck. She shuffled her feet, suddenly self-conscious under the intense scrutiny of the room. I haven't studied yet," she confessed, her voice barely audible. "I've been working and saving up to apply to college. I'm hoping to start next year if I can get enough money." Together, the room fell silent once more, the weight of her words hanging in the air. The engineers exchanged stunned glances, their minds struggling to reconcile the brilliance they had just witnessed with the lack of formal education. It was a stark reminder that knowledge and talent don't always reside within the confines of academic institutions. Creswell's eyes widened in surprise, a slow smile spreading across his face. He paused, letting the information sink in, then asked, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and amusement, "And you came up with this solution while delivering lunch?" Maya smiled shyly, a hint of pride flickering in her eyes. It's how my brain works, I guess. I see patterns, connections. It's like solving a puzzle, and I love puzzles. Her explanation was simple, almost childlike, yet it conveyed the essence of her unique gift. She possessed an innate ability to decipher complex systems, to identify underlying structures, and to find elegant solutions to seemingly intractable problems. It was a talent that had been nurtured by years of observation, self-teaching, and an insatiable curiosity about the world around her. News of Maya's breakthrough spread like wildfire through Creswell Tech. The initial shock and disbelief quickly gave way to a sense of excitement and renewed hope. The investors, who had been on the verge of pulling out, called back, their tones suddenly optimistic. The atmosphere in the company shifted, dramatically, from the depths of despair to the heights of possibility, all thanks to the unexpected brilliance of a young delivery girl. The tech blogs picked up the story, their headlines screaming about the delivery girl who saved Creswell Tech and the AI breakthrough that defied all odds. Social media exploded with the news, Twitter abuzz with hashtags like Maya the Solver and Unexpected Genius. Maya Lewis became an overnight sensation, her face plastered across news sites and her story shared millions of times. Everyone wanted to know about the girl who had single-handedly solved a problem that had stumped the best and brightest in the industry. Interview requests flooded in, talk show invitations piled up, and venture capitalists lined up to offer her lucrative deals. But amidst all the clamor and attention, Maya remained grounded. Fame and fortune were not her driving forces. All she had ever wanted was a chance, an opportunity to pursue her passion and make a difference in the world. The whirlwind of publicity was a means to an end, not an end in itself. That evening, as the storm clouds finally parted and the setting sun cast long shadows across the city, Richard Creswell called another meeting in the boardroom. The atmosphere was dramatically different from the tense, despairing scene of earlier that day. Now the air crackled with excitement and a sense of renewed purpose. The engineers, their faces beaming with pride, stood alongside Creswell, their eyes fixed on the front of the room. Creswell, his voice filled with emotion, stood beside Maya, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. He looked out at the assembled group, his gaze sweeping across their faces. "We owe our future, the very survival of this company, to someone who wasn't even on our payroll," he announced, his voice ringing with sincerity. "Someone who walked in here not with a polished resume or a list of impressive credentials, but with something far more valuable: insight." His words resonated deeply, acknowledging the profound shift in perspective that had occurred. He turned to Maya, his eyes filled with gratitude and admiration. "Maya Lewis," he declared, his voice strong and clear, "will now lead our new innovation team. She will be given full resources and autonomy to explore her ideas and drive our company forward." A collective gasp swept through the room, followed by a thunderous applause. But Creswell wasn't finished. He had one more surprise in store. "Furthermore," he continued, his voice booming with pride, "Creswell Tech will provide Maya with a full scholarship to any educational institution she chooses, with complete financial support for her studies and living expenses." The room erupted in cheers, a wave of genuine emotion washing over everyone present. Maya stood speechless, tears welling up in her eyes. The magnitude of the moment was overwhelming, a dream come true beyond her wildest imagination. The engineers surrounding her clapped, not out of obligation or politeness, but out of deep and sincere respect. They had witnessed firsthand the power of her intellect, the brilliance of her insights, and the transformative impact of her contributions. Their initial skepticism had been replaced by a profound admiration for her talent and her unwavering determination. In the weeks that followed, Maya immersed herself in her new role, working tirelessly alongside the engineers to refine and expand her AI model. She poured her heart and soul into the project, driven by a deep sense of purpose and a desire to make a real difference in the world. Under her guidance, the AI system evolved into a groundbreaking logistics engine, far surpassing its initial potential. Creswell Tech not only rebounded from the brink of collapse, it soared to new heights, becoming a leader in the industry. The company's stock prices skyrocketed, New partnerships were forged, and the future looked brighter than ever. But the most beautiful and impactful outcome of Maya's success wasn't the millions of dollars saved by Creswell Tech, nor the countless headlines celebrating her genius. It was something far more personal and meaningful. With her first substantial bonus, Maya decided to invest in her community, the very neighborhood where she had grown up, where she had delivered food, and where she had nurtured her dreams against all odds. She funded the creation of a community learning hub, a vibrant space open to anyone, regardless of age or background, who possessed a burning curiosity and a thirst for knowledge but lacked access to resources and opportunities. It was a place where kids, just like she had been, could dream big, experiment fearlessly, and find a sense of belonging. The hub was equipped with computers, books, tools for creative projects, and most importantly, mentors who were passionate about sharing their knowledge and inspiring the next generation of innovators. Maya poured her heart and soul into the Learning Hub, spending countless hours there, mentoring students, organizing workshops, and creating a supportive and inclusive environment. She wanted to break down the barriers that had once stood in her way, to ensure that other young minds had the chance to flourish, regardless of their circumstances. The hub became a beacon of hope in the neighborhood, a place where dreams were nurtured and potential was unleashed. It was a testament to Maya's generosity, her vision, and her unwavering belief in the power of education to transform lives. The impact of the Learning Hub extended far beyond the walls of the building. It fostered a sense of community, sparked a wave of creativity, and empowered individuals to pursue their passions. Maya's act of giving back had created a ripple effect, transforming not only her own life, but the lives of countless others. The story of Maya Lewis became a legend within Creswell Tech, a constant reminder that innovation can come from the most unexpected places. Her portrait, painted in a vibrant, almost ethereal style, hung prominently in the company lobby, a symbol of hope and inspiration for all who entered. The engineers who had initially dismissed her now spoke of her with reverence, acknowledging the profound impact she had had on their work and their perspectives. Richard Creswell, forever grateful for her contribution, became a staunch advocate for investing in unconventional talent, actively seeking out individuals with unique skills and perspectives, regardless of their formal qualifications. The company's hiring practices underwent a radical transformation, embracing diversity and inclusivity, recognizing that true innovation thrives in an environment where different voices are heard and valued. Maya's journey was far from over. She continued to lead the innovation team at Creswell Tech, pushing the boundaries of AI and logistics, always striving to create solutions that would benefit society as a whole. She also pursued her education with unwavering determination, excelling in her studies and inspiring her fellow students with her passion and her story. She became a role model for aspiring innovators, particularly for those from disadvantaged backgrounds, proving that dreams are attainable with hard work, perseverance, and a belief in oneself. Her life was a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of seizing opportunities, and the transformative potential of a single act of courage. The girl who had once delivered takeout in the rain had become a force of nature, shaping the future of technology and inspiring generations to come. However, Maya's journey wasn't without its challenges. As her influence grew, so did the scrutiny. Some within Creswell Tech, particularly those who had initially dismissed her, felt threatened by her rapid ascent. Whispers of doubt began to circulate, questioning her long-term capabilities and suggesting that her success was a fluke. These voices, though a minority, sought to undermine her authority and reassert the old hierarchy. Maya found herself navigating a complex web of office politics, learning to defend her ideas, assert her leadership, and stay true to her vision in the face of adversity. It was a new kind of puzzle, one that required not just intellectual brilliance but also emotional intelligence and strategic thinking. She learned to build alliances, mentor her team, and inspire confidence, proving that her leadership was as exceptional as her intellect. One particularly vocal critic was a senior engineer named David, a man known for his impressive credentials and his traditional views on hierarchy. He had initially been among the most skeptical, his pride wounded by the fact that a young woman with no formal training had solved a problem that had stumped him. David challenged Maya's decisions, questioned her methods, and subtly undermined her authority at every turn. His resistance created tension within the team and threatened to derail the progress they had made. Maya, however, refused to be intimidated. She approached David with a combination of firmness and empathy, seeking to understand his concerns and find common ground. She recognized his expertise and sought his input, but she also stood firm on her vision and her belief in her team. It was a delicate balancing act, requiring patience, diplomacy, and unwavering self-belief. Slowly but surely, Maya won David over. She proved her competence not through titles or degrees, but through consistent results, innovative ideas, and a genuine passion for her work. She mentored him, sharing her insights and collaborating on projects, demonstrating that her leadership was about empowering the entire team, not just asserting her authority. David, in turn, began to see Maya in a new light. He recognized her extraordinary talent, her unwavering dedication, and her ability to inspire those around her. His resistance gradually softened, replaced by a grudging respect that eventually blossomed into genuine admiration. Their collaboration became a powerful force within Creswell Tech, a symbol of how diverse perspectives and experiences could lead to groundbreaking innovation. Years passed, and Maya's impact on Creswell Tech continued to grow. She led the development of several more groundbreaking AI systems, revolutionizing not only logistics, but also other industries such as healthcare and environmental sustainability. Her influence extended beyond the company, as she became a sought-after speaker, a respected thought leader, and a passionate advocate for STEM education, particularly for underrepresented communities. She never forgot her roots, continuing to support the Community Learning Hub and mentoring countless young people, inspiring them to pursue their dreams and believe in their own potential. The girl who had once delivered takeout in the rain had become a legend, her name synonymous with innovation, resilience, and the power of the human spirit. One day, Richard Creswell, now retired but still a close friend and mentor to Maya, visited her at the Learning Hub. He watched with pride as she interacted with the students, her eyes sparkling with passion as she explained complex concepts and encouraged their creativity. He saw the legacy she was building, not just in the world of technology, but in the lives of the people she touched. "You know, Maya," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "you taught us all a valuable lesson. That brilliance can come from anywhere, that opportunity is essential, and that giving back is the greatest reward." Maya smiled, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "It wasn't just me, Richard," she replied. "It was the chance you gave me, the belief you had in me. That's what truly made the difference." As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the Learning Hub, Maya stood surrounded by the eager faces of her students. She looked at them, her eyes filled with hope and determination, and shared a final thought. "In a world that often judges us by our backgrounds and our titles," she began, her voice ringing with conviction, "remember that your potential is limitless. Embrace your curiosity, never stop learning, and always have the courage to walk through any door that opens before you, because you never know what incredible things you might achieve." Her words resonated deeply, inspiring the young minds to dream big and strive for a future where their talents, not their circumstances, would define their destinies. And so, the story of Maya Lewis became a timeless tale, a reminder that brilliance can be found in the most unexpected places, that opportunity is the catalyst for change, and that the greatest legacy we can leave behind is one of empowerment and inspiration. It was a story of overcoming obstacles, shattering expectations, and proving that the human spirit, when given a chance to shine, can achieve extraordinary things. The rain that had once soaked Maya as she rushed between deliveries had washed away the limitations of her past, paving the way for a future where her talents would illuminate the world.